My parents sent the text at exactly 9:07 a.m. Don't come tonight. Only elites are invited. No explanation. No emoji. Just that. I stared at the screen for a long time. Like if I looked hard enough, the words might rearrange themselves into something less cruel. But they didn't. They stayed sharp. Surgical. The kind of sentence that doesn't scream but cuts deeper than shouting ever could. Tonight was their anniversary gala. A big one. High-profile guests. Business leaders. City officials. People who mattered. Apparently, I didn't. I wasn't surprised. Hurt, yes. But surprised? No. I'd spent most of my life being the inconvenient detail in their perfect family portrait. The son who didn't fit the frame. I typed back slowly. Got it. That was all. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was where I had been the last 5 years. Or what I had become. To them, I was still the same disappointment. Growing up as a Miller meant expectations came pre-installed. My father, Richard Miller, was a respected real estate magnate. My mother, Elaine, curated charity boards like Social Currency. My younger sister, Claire, was flawless private schools, Ivy League dreams, and a smile that cameras loved. And then there was me, Ethan Miller, the problem child. I didn't fail school. I just didn't excel at the things they wanted. I liked building things quietly. Systems. Businesses. I preferred rooms with whiteboards over banquet halls. That was my first sin. My second sin was leaving. At 22, I walked away from the family firm after my father told me, in front of 3 executives, "You don't have the polish for this world." That sentence followed me for years. I left the city, changed my number, started over with nothing but a laptop, a borrowed couch, and a promise to myself, no more begging for approval. They never tried to stop me. By noon, I had already decided I wouldn't attend the gala, even if they begged. But something else happened that afternoon. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Unknown numbers, missed calls, text previews lighting up my screen. At first, I ignored them. Then one message slipped through. "Hi, this is Michael Ross. Are you Ethan Miller?" Michael Ross. I froze. He was one of the guests. A venture capitalist. Someone I'd done business with privately. Very privately. I replied carefully. "Yes." "Why?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then, "We're at your parents' event. People are asking where you are." I felt a strange tightening in my chest, asking, "Why?" His response came almost instantly. "Because your name keeps coming up." I sat down. Another message arrived, this time from a different number. "Ethan, it's Laura Chen. Didn't know you were their son. Everyone's surprised you're not here." Then another, and another. By 6 p.m., I understood. They had built the night around influence, around deals, around money. And somehow, without knowing it, they had built it around me. Here's what my parents didn't know. The elite guests they were hosting? Several of them were my partners. 2 were early investors. 1 was the CEO of a company I quietly owned a controlling stake in. I had never used my last name in business. Never needed to. Tonight, my absence was louder than my presence ever had been. At 7:12 p.m., my mother called. He let it ring. At 7:15, my father called. I declined. At 7:18, a text came through from my sister. "Ethan, what's going on?" Dad looked shaken. I stared at the message, my hands steady. For the first time in my life, I wasn't scrambling to explain myself. I wasn't trying to earn a seat at the table. They were the ones being asked questions now. Questions they couldn't answer. I didn't go to the gala. I went somewhere else. I stood on my balcony, city lights flickering below, phone buzzing non-stop, and I realized something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. They had spent years making me feel small, and now, without raising my voice, without showing my face, I had become the elephant in the room they couldn't ignore. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was just the moment before the truth walked in. And when it did, they wouldn't be ready. I wasn't in the ballroom, but I could picture it perfectly. Crystal chandeliers, polished smiles, my mother floating from table to table like she owned the air itself, my father standing tall, Suit sharp, voice confident, the king of a world he thought he controlled. That illusion didn't last long. At 7:26 p.m., my sister called again. This time, I answered. "Ethan," Claire whispered, panic cracking through her perfect tone. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," I said calmly. "Why?" There was shouting in the background, glass clinking, a microphone screeching. "People are asking questions," she said. "Important people." I smiled slightly. "Good. Here's what happened piece by piece." As I later found out, Michael Ross was the first to ask. He had leaned toward my father during cocktails and said casually, "So, Richard, where's Ethan tonight?" My father had laughed. "The practice kind. Oh, he couldn't make it. Busy with smaller ventures." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Smaller?" he repeated. "Interesting." Then Laura Chen joined in. "You mean that Ethan Miller? The one behind Northbridge Holdings?" My mother froze mid-sip. "Northbridge," she said too quickly. "I'm not familiar." Laura smiled politely, the kind of smile people use before delivering a quiet explosion. "You should be. It just acquired 3 of the properties showcased tonight." Silence. Real silence. The kind that spreads. By the time dinner was served, my name was no longer a question. It was a topic. Someone pulled up a phone. Someone else whispered numbers. Revenue. Valuations. Private acquisitions. My parents sat there, nodding stiffly, pretending they understood what everyone else already knew, that their forgotten son wasn't forgotten at all. He was everywhere. At 7:48 p.m., my father excused himself from the table. He locked himself in a quiet hallway and called me again. This time, I answered. "Ethan," he said, voice tight. "Why are people saying these things?" I leaned against the balcony railing, city wind cool against my face. "Saying what?" I asked. "That you—" He stopped, swallowed. "That you're behind Northbridge. That you're involved." "Involved?" I echoed. "Yes, in everything." I paused. Not for drama, for honesty. "I never hid," I said. "You just never looked." The line went dead. Inside the ballroom, the damage was done. Guests weren't listening to speeches anymore. They were comparing notes, making connections, asking why the most influential person in the room wasn't even invited. One guest said it out loud. "If Ethan Miller isn't here," he asked my mother, "is this event even complete?" That question hurt her more than any insult ever could. At 8:10 p.m., my mother finally texted me. "Please come. We need to talk." I read it once, then twice. Then I put the phone down. Not yet. I wasn't ready to walk into a room that had spent years pretending I didn't exist. Let them sit with that feeling a little longer. At 8:32 p.m., my sister texted again. "They're embarrassed. Dad's angry. Mom's crying." I closed my eyes. For a second, just one, I almost felt guilty. Then I remembered every dinner where I wasn't invited. Every conversation that stopped when I entered the room. Every time my achievements were minimized, ignored, or compared unfavorably to Claire's potential. This wasn't cruelty. This was balance. At 9 p.m., the host announced a surprise networking session. That was code. People wanted access, and the only name they kept asking for was mine. My parents stood there, surrounded by their own guests, unable to give them what they wanted most. Me. I finally picked up my phone and typed one message. To my father. "You told me I didn't belong in your world. Tonight, your world noticed I was missing. No emojis, no explanation, just truth. I didn't go to the gala, but by the time it ended, everyone there knew exactly who I was. And more importantly, my parents finally understood what it feels like to be excluded from a room you thought you owned. This still wasn't revenge. This was just the echo. The real confrontation, that was coming. I arrived when the music was dying. Not dramatic, not late on purpose, just precise. The ballroom doors opened, and the sound dipped, conversations lowering, heads turning, curiosity cutting through the room like a blade. I walked in alone. No entourage, no announcement. Just me, Ethan Miller, clean-shaven, dark suit, calm. The same people who had been whispering my name now saw my face, and recognition hit them all at once. My mother was the first to notice me. Her smile froze, not because she was surprised, because she was afraid. She leaned toward my father and said something sharp and urgent. His head snapped up. Our eyes met. For the first time in years, he looked uncertain. Good. I didn't go to them right away. I moved through the room, greeting people who already knew who I was. Handshakes, nods, quiet respect. Every interaction tightened the knot in my parents' chests. They had built this night to impress strangers, and the strangers were impressed by me. Finally, my father stepped in front of me, blocking my path like he always used to. You shouldn't be here, he said, low and tense. I looked at him, really looked. The man who once called me uneducated, worthless, a mistake. And I felt nothing but clarity. You invited elites, I said calmly. I came. His jaw clenched. People slowed nearby, pretending not to listen, but they were listening. You embarrassed us tonight, he hissed. I tilted my head. No, you embarrassed yourselves. My mother rushed over then. Ethan, she said, voice shaking. Let's talk privately. I smiled. No, I said softly. Public is fine. The word public hit her like a slap. My father laughed a brittle sound. So, this is revenge? He asked. You think money makes you better? I leaned closer. Just enough. You taught me that status mattered more than family, I said. I just learned the lesson well. A few gasps. Someone dropped a fork. That's not fair, my mother whispered. We did our best. I nodded slowly. You did what was easiest, I said. There's a difference. Silence swallowed the space between us. My father straightened, pride flaring one last time. You were never supposed to outshine us, he said. That wasn't the plan. That was it. The truth. And I felt something in me finally break free. I wasn't supposed to shine, I repeated. I was supposed to stay small so you could feel big. I took a step back, voice steady, loud enough for everyone. But I grew anyway. A man behind me cleared his throat. Richard, he said, you didn't tell us your son was exceptional. My father didn't answer. He couldn't. I turned to the room. I won't interrupt your event, I said politely. I just wanted to say hello. Then I looked back at my parents. And goodbye. As I walked away, my sister caught my arm. You didn't have to do this, she whispered. I met her eyes. I had to stop pretending, I said. I left before dessert, before apologies, before excuses. Outside, the night air felt lighter, like something heavy had finally been put down. But this wasn't the end. Not yet, because the next move wouldn't be mine. It would be theirs, and they would come to me. They didn't wait long. 2 days after the gala, my father showed up at my office. No call, no warning, just his name at the reception desk, spoken with a hesitation I'd never heard before. I told them to send him in. Alone. He walked into my office like a man stepping into unfamiliar territory, because it was. Glass walls, city views, quiet confidence built into every corner. This wasn't his world. This was mine. He stopped a few feet away, hands clenched, eyes scanning the room. So it's true, he said. All of it. I didn't offer him a seat. It's been true for years, I replied. He exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding his breath since the night I was born. We didn't think you'd become this, he said. I almost laughed. Because you never planned for me to, I said. You planned for me to disappear. He flinched. I was protecting the family, he said. You don't understand the pressure. I leaned forward, resting my palms on the desk. I understand neglect, I said quietly. I understand being invisible. Pressure never broke me. Silence did. He looked down. For the first time in my life, my father couldn't meet my eyes. My mother came later. This time, she called first. Her voice on the phone was small, careful. Ethan, she said. May I come see you? May. The word stung more than any insult ever had. Yes, I said. Tomorrow, she cried in my office. Not dramatically. Soft tears. Quiet shame. We were afraid, she admitted. Afraid you'd outgrow us. I nodded. So you tried to shrink me instead, I said. She didn't argue. That was her confession. Do you hate us? She asked. I thought about it. Really thought. No, I said finally. I just don't need you. That hurt her more than hate ever could. They wanted reconciliation. Dinners. Photos. Public smiles. They wanted access to my world. I offered them honesty instead. You don't get to rewrite the past, I said. But you can stop lying about it. My father's jaw tightened. What do you want? He asked. I stood up. I want you to tell the truth, I said. To everyone. A week later, they did. At a smaller gathering. Different audience. My father spoke. My son didn't abandon us, he said stiffly. We abandoned him. Gasps. My mother added. And he succeeded despite us. Not because of us, despite. Afterward, people looked at me differently. Not with curiosity, with respect. That night, alone in my apartment, I sat by the window and felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Not triumph. Peace. But there was still one thing left. One final choice. Whether I would let them back in or leave them exactly where they had left me. They waited for my answer. Days passed. No calls. No message. Just silence. The same silence I grew up in. And for the first time, I was the one in control of it. I stood at my apartment window, watching the city move below me. All those years I had begged for a place at their table. Now the table had turned. And I wasn't hungry anymore. My father finally called. I'll accept whatever you decide, he said. Just tell us. I closed my eyes, and I remembered everything. The nights I studied alone while they celebrated. The birthdays they forgot. The text that said, don't come. Elites only. That message didn't just uninvite me. It erased me. I've already decided, I said calmly. There was a pause. Then my mother's voice joined the call. We're listening. I breathed in, deep, measured. I forgive you, I said. Relief rushed through the line, but I wasn't finished. I forgive you, I repeated, because I won't carry what you did. Silence. But forgiveness isn't access. My father's breath caught. You mean, I'm not coming back, I said. Not to the house, not to the role you left empty. My mother started to cry. Soft, broken. We're your parents, she whispered. And I was your son, I replied. Once, I ended the call, not angry, not shaking, just done. Months later, I attended another event, bigger, louder. This time, my name was on the invitation, on the stage. As a speaker, I spoke about resilience, about becoming visible after being erased. The applause lasted longer than I expected. Afterward, a young man approached me. They never believed in me either, he said. But you made me think. Maybe that doesn't matter. I smiled. Sometimes, I said, it matters less who raised you than who you become. I saw my parents once more, from a distance. At another event, they didn't approach me. They didn't need to. We had said everything that mattered. That night, I wrote one sentence in my journal. I didn't prove them wrong. I proved myself right, and that was enough.